Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about hiking boots versus trail running shoes and when you should choose between the two and the top 8 considerations you need to think about when going out for your next trip. What are the 8 different considerations when you're deciding between heavy leather boots or using trail runners for your next backpacking outing? Hi, my name's Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer and professional adventurer. I have worn through dozens of boots and shoes and hikers and backpacks and all sorts of other things in the backcountry doing my thing. And over time I've developed a sense of what works for me and what's best for getting out there and adventuring. The first consideration when you're choosing between leather boots and trail runners for your hiking or backpacking trip is simply weight. This shoe is quite light. It's a little bit stiffer on the bottom. I do have my ice screws on there. Compared to my heavy leather boots, these are in a whole different class. Now, I just saw on YouTube another person talking about the comparison in the classic 1 pound on your feet equals 5 pounds on your back. And the US Army apparently did a test that indicates that yes, in fact, 1 pound on your feet nearly translates to 5 pounds on your back in equivalent fatigue. So when you need to consider how long and how far you're going to go, weight is a big deal. Wearing these boots in, say, just walking down a good, flat, easy trail is like wearing trail runners plus something to keep your feet extra hot and ankle weights. Do you really want to hike with ankle weights for 10, 20, 50, 100, 2,000 miles? Probably not. So if you think that your feet are going to get fatigued and everything, you might really want to consider trail runners because these guys are much better than heavy hiking boots. But the big factor is, and this is the second consideration, are snow fields. How many snow fields are you going to have to cross on your hike or your backpack when you're out there marching along? You might be able to get away with it, and I have with trail runners, hitting some snow fields and getting across it. I get a little bit of snow in there and I stop and shake them out and it's pretty good. But if I know I'm going to hit a bunch of snow fields, the heavier leather boots may just be the factor that I need. So sometimes you might have to be out there for 10, 20, 30 miles and all of a sudden you run into an unexpected snow patch and you've chosen trail runners. What are you going to do? You're going to tough it out. In fact, this past summer I was in Wyoming in the Wind River range hiking Gannett Peak, and there was a family, a mother and daughter and father and son, and they were all out there in tennis shoes climbing up that thing with slush and snow in their shoes. It looked pretty miserable, but because it was good and daylight and good weather, they were doing pretty well. But me, I was out there with my heavy hiking boots because I was doing this solo, and I didn't want to have the chance of injuring my feet. So you know, that sort of consideration of snow conditions is a big deal. Another consideration are water crossings. If you're going to have to do some slushy, sloppy water walking, a waterproof or heavier leather boot or a synthetic full waterproof boot might be exactly what you need to get through those conditions, because your trail runners, are, the moment you splash in water, are going to get wet, absolutely guaranteed, which can lead to blisters and problems. Even if you use a double or a triple sock system like I use with my right socks plus my Smart Wools, they'll just get wetter inside these compared to my heavy leather boots. So water crossings and sloppy conditions are a big consideration when you're choosing between these two boots. And that leads me to weather and temperature conditions. Is it going to be chilly, highly variable? Is it going to be cloudy and rainy? You don't know. If you're going out for a long time, like section hiking or through hiking an Appalachian Trail or something, the weather's going to be whatever it's going to be on that day. There's no getting around it. So just deciding between those two is like, wow, you have to have other factors in. But if you're just going for a weekend, a 8, a 10, a 20, or even a 40-mile backpack over a weekend, you could possibly schedule it so you can get perfect weather, and that definitely pushes you towards these trail runners versus some sort of heavy boot. But The next question is general traction. Do you have any idea what sort of terrain you're going to be going over? Are you going to need a heavier boot based on how much rock and slick rock and whatever else you're going to cross? Or are trail runners going to be perfect for you? Now, it's impossible to anticipate what sort of things you're going to run into the trail, but both of these shoes have done pretty well. But if it's really sketchy conditions, I definitely prefer my hiking boots in rougher terrain, that's for sure. The next thing is snow traction. These boots get huge snow traction compared to my trail runners no matter what I'm doing. So I know if I'm going to hit a bunch of slushy sections, I have to consider that, these trail runners, unless I have my steel screws on there, are going to be pretty bad, especially for super icy conditions. Yeah, for me, it's boots all the way. But the next consideration is, not only snow traction, but ankle protection. As you can see here, these boots are nice and tall. I have plenty of ankle protection. In fact, there's padding here and here, so even when I walk and I kick, I never have any problems. But with my trail running shoes, as I'm walking with my backpack and the inside of my foot catches the other side of my ankle, ouchie! Yeah, I just cringe even remembering it. So ankle protection is a big deal from mechanical, but also from twisting. If you are planning on using trail runners, you need to start doing your alphabet, your A, B, C, because you're going to need to tighten up and strengthen your ankles as much as you can, because if you're not used to walking 10, 20, 30 miles in trail runners every day, eventually your ankles are going to be blah, blah. And that's where, or especially if you have ankle problems, these boots can come in handy to provide ankle protection for support and for hitting it on rocks and kicking yourself. And the other final factor to consider is sole protection, because after you're walking on your 172nd stabby rock in the morning, eventually the bottom of your feet are going to hurt. Now, I had this happen because I was using my trail runners years ago, and by the end of a 30-mile backpack over a weekend, my feet were hurting. Everything I stepped on just like, wow! Compared to my heavier boots, I could just walk and I didn't care. Now, that was a function too of when I was more of a desk jockey, not like I'm a desk jockey now, but I wasn't really toughening up my feet. Nowadays, I go for a walk every day just to toughen up my feet, so when I'm out walking, it can be an issue. But just consider, if you're going on a trail for a long, long time and you're not going on through hikes, but you maybe go once or twice a year, trail runners are great because they're super light, but stepping on those hard broken rocks over time can really drill your feet. Compared to a nice heavier boot, I could pretty much walk over anything and not care. Take this to the extreme of using 5-finger shoes. I remember seeing these two guys that were hiking up in the eastern Sierras, going over a pass, and they had to turn around and abandon their entire backpack trip because there was this long stretch of broken up and fist-sized rocks that were just killing the bottoms of their feet and their ankles. They just got wrecked. So they planned, they trained, they did all the stuff, they bought the food, they got the time off, and they toasted their trip in just a short 100-section yard, half an hour into the trail. It was terrible to see. So super light shoes weren't the best choice for them. I had not these, but I had my Merrill Moab ventilators, and I was able to cruise through. It wasn't comfortable, but certainly not as bad as a trail runner, and definitely not bad as a 5-finger or simple foot covering of a shoe. So those are the major factors you have to consider when deciding between a heavy hiking boot and a light trail runner. If you're doing really, really long distances, you're going to have to go with the trail runner because of the weight consideration, and you're going to have to deal with the inconveniences of wet feet and lower protection, because hiking ultra long distances with a heavy boot is just going to kick your booty. I hope you found this video useful in getting you to understand the difference between light trail runners and heavy hiking boots and the differences in between them. My name is Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer and professional adventurer. Please like and comment on the video, and if you found it useful, subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and stay safe and enjoy your adventures.